Okay, so let's go over stages and pipelines. What you're looking at here on our projects page, these are stages, these lists of projects, and then these are pipelines. Pipelines are really just ways of organizing stages inside of ProLine, usually around specific parts in the process. So you have your sales pipeline, your production pipeline, your billing pipeline. Those are the most common ones that we usually set up in everyone's accounts, but people are welcome to create their own pipelines, which is what we're about to go over now. So to edit pipelines and stages, you're going to go into your settings, your company settings, go to stages, and then this is the same layout that we saw on the project page. You can see all the stages here underneath each pipeline. To add a new pipeline, if we wanted to add a different pipeline here, maybe we want to split production into repairs versus replacements, or maybe insurance versus retail. That may be something that some companies want to do. We could maybe make an insurance pipeline here. Click the plus button, and that's going to now add an insurance pipeline. And so if we go back to projects, now we have this insurance pipeline here. There's no stages on it, but we now have that up here in our pipeline area. So going back into the edit area here for stages, we can add any number of stages that we want here. If we want maybe waiting on adjuster, type today, waiting on adjuster. Now we have that stage. We can click on the little color bar to change the color if we want it to be colored something else. And then now that's how we can build out these stages. Now we can also move these around. So if I wanted this pipeline to be higher up here in the list, maybe right after production or right before production, I can click on the edit icon, click on move, and I can move this pipeline up in the list here. And sometimes it can take a second. One thing to note, we are going to be replacing this like click to move with a, I'm not sure why there it goes. Okay. We are going to be replacing this with a drag and drop system here soon. So this is just a temporary thing, but that is how you currently move pipelines up and down in the list. Same thing with stages. If I wanted to move, we'll go into the billing pipeline here, and I want to move stages. I can go to this move icon, and I can move this stage down the list or back up the list, and that changes the order of how it appears here on the project page. You can now see the insurance pipeline is here instead of being at the end. Now for each stage, there's a few different options here. Real quick for at the pipeline level, there's a few settings here we can go over. First of all, we have the ability to delete a pipeline. We also can change the color of the pipeline, just like we can change the color of the stages. And then we have the move icon. And then lastly, we have what we call overlap stages. Now, this is very important because it's what allows us to easily link different pipelines together for the flow of projects through someone's ProLine account. The most common area here would be having a one stage at the beginning of your production pipeline, and then having that be added as an overlap stage here in the sales pipeline. So if we go to overlap here, we can see that we have the production one stage as an overlap stage in sales. What that does is now when we go to the sales pipeline and we look here at the end, we're going to see the one stage here, but we're also going to see it at the beginning of the production pipeline as well. So it creates that overlap so that way you're not having to, it makes it easy to transition a project from the sales pipeline into the production pipeline or between any other pipelines by having that overlap stage in place. So now moving on to these stages, we have a bunch of different options here for editing the behavior of a stage. Of course, we can delete the stage. We can also tell ProLine whether this is an archive stage or a regular stage. Most of these stages that you're seeing here are regular stages. If we go over to billing, though, we can see an example of an archive stage. An archive stage doesn't actually show its projects in the main projects area. It hides them in this little, behind this little graded archived projects area. And when you click in, you can view those archived projects. So that's just a way to keep everything clean, especially for stages like paid and closed, where you want to keep those projects out of the way. Now, going back here, we can duplicate the stage. This will duplicate everything, all the settings surrounding a stage if we wanted to quickly create another stage that's in this pipeline. I think because I'm on Zoom, some of these things are running a little slowly. Let me see what happens if I reload. Not sure. I have to look at the duplicate function. But we look at this pie here. If we click on this, this will bring up the statuses for this stage. This is very important for the analytics side of ProLine, for the business analytics, is making sure that the stages have the correct status. By default, they are not going to set a status for a project, but depending on where they are in the process, you're going to want to choose one of these statuses for projects in this stage, either lead, open, won, lost, or closed. These determine a couple different things. For one, it does determine whether or not ProLine is going to sync activity from the associated contact. And activity would be things like text messages or emails with a contact. Is that going to be synced into the project? So if a project has been marked lost or closed, which is either it's completely paid and closed, or it's lost, then ProLine is no longer going to log activity on that project. And so it is important for that. But also for our business report, all of these different metrics that we have here, these are all, we generate all of this based off of those statuses. So those statuses are important for determining whether something's an open opportunity, a won opportunity, closed, and all of that. And so if we go in here and we just look at one of these projects, you can also you can manually override these stage statuses by just telling ProLine what the status of a project is. But by assigning stages, certain statuses, what ProLine can do is it automatically changes this for you. So if we go look at billing and we look at everything in this paid and closed stage, we can see that these are all going to be status closed. And that happened automatically when they were moved into paid and closed. I could manually overwrite it and change it back to lead for Tony Stark, but generally you're going to want to leave it at whatever ProLine has automatically put it as. And that is, again, based off of what was chosen here as the status for this stage. We have the snippet for the stage. The snippet is the information that shows underneath the name of the project. And so we have a few different options here. We have, if there's an upcoming event scheduled for the project, that can be shown as a snippet. Their address can be shown as a snippet. Their status for their campaign automations can be showed as a snippet. That's really useful, especially for like a quote scenario where you'd have follow-up campaigns running. You might want to be able to see at a glance when the next automation is going to run for that contact. And then we also have revenue. So you can have ProLine tell you what the revenue is for that project. There's quite a few different options for the different snippets that ProLine can show. And these are all of those. Some of these are based off the main contact. So main contact, next step, that's that next automation step. Some of these are based off the main contact for the project, and some of them are associated with the project itself. And then lastly, this gear icon will open up the campaign triggers. This can be accessed also through the projects page. So if you just click on the gear icon on a project here, it will pull up the triggers for that stage, but it can be accessed also through this page as well. We've gone over this in another video. So that's kind of a stage triggers are a separate topic, but this is where you would set up triggers to start certain automated campaigns when projects enter into this stage. And so that's pretty much it. The only changes that are upcoming to this is we are going to be making it possible just to drag and drop the order here instead of having to use the move icon, since that is a little bit buggy. So we're working on being able to drag and drop things in this list. But other than that, that's how that works. You guys have any thoughts, any questions?
Can you do more than one snippet per name?
Not currently per
Okay.
stage. One snippet per stage. So you have to decide what information is most important for that stage.
Yeah, I guess that's not that big of a deal. Because I'm thinking out loud where it's like I'd be looking at bids. It's like, okay, who am I going to follow up with or look at based on revenues? And then if I'm doing estimates upcoming, it's usually based on like cities. So yeah, it's really just one piece. So
I think I'm trying to remember. I don't think we have this now. Would it be helpful to have? Yeah, we don't have it now. We just have address. Would it be helpful to have city? Because I don't think, let me see. The address does not currently show the city. Is that something that would be valuable to have a snippet option for this name of the city that they're in?
I would, but that's the way I looked at customers, where it's like I know based on a city, typically it's like, okay, I know what houses I'm going to or what the appointment's generally gonna be like because of that area.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You might add an
Because like
option for that.
thinking that somebody where it's like, oh yeah, this zip code, it's like they're never gonna buy a metal roof. This zip code absolutely will look at metal roofs, but maybe not buy it, but could buy it.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember, some addresses are just long and they won't fit in here. But for most addresses, I feel like you could probably squeeze the city in here. I might try just adding the city
Or you
name.
just leave the address off. Cause like I just feel like it's like who knows where the hell 1040 Eastway is.
That's fair. Yeah.
Unless you're in a directional status where you're like, hey, I'm going to an appointment. In which case it's like, hey, going to appointment, then you figure out a way to just put them on full address.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I think that's a good idea to add in that option, at least for city instead of the street address. So that's something I'll work on. Elizabeth, any questions on your end? Look good. All righty. Well, we will wrap up today. Thanks for joining me on this. And yeah, hope to see you guys again soon.
Cool. Thanks, AJ.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris.
See you, Elizabeth.
Chris, do you want to, here, let me stop the recording.
Yep.